Hello friends and welcome back to my channel. Today we are doing my May wrap up plus my entire summer TBR. Yes, I went back and forth over how to do this video, how many videos I wanted to do, what I wanted to do, because I am a little bit late to my wrap up and June TBR because I was on vacation for the past week, so I'm just a tad bit late, and because of that I didn't want to make two videos. I don't think that just seemed like a lot of work, and I have all the books in front of me right now, so let's just get this whole situation done with and we'll get back on usual schedule moving forward. So we do have a lot to get through, but I am so excited about all of it and I am just dying to tell you about all of my reading plans for summer 2024. Okay, starting with my May wrap up, the first thing that I read in May was Diavola by Jennifer Thorne. This is a horror novel set in an Italian villa as a family goes on vacation and then discovers there's something wrong with the house that they are staying in. I have a whole video review dedicated to this book, so I'm not going to spend too much time on it, but what I will say is that I did not really enjoy this book, and I know I will not be picking up anything from Jennifer Thorne in the future just because I could not stand her writing style. It is the very contemporary first-person voice that I just hate. It is like so grating on my brain, I cannot handle it. And for that just made for a largely unpleasant experience. And then on top of that, the vibe just is not what I was hoping for. This cover conveys a very different feeling than what the book ends up feeling like. And while I did think there was something interesting to be said towards the end of this novel, it just too little too late. So this was a miss for me. The next book I read was The Last House on Needless Street by Catriona Ward. I was so excited to get into another Catriona Ward after reading The Looking Glass Sound last year. I loved it so much. It was my first Catriona Ward, and it's kind of become my mission to now read all of her other works. And that will be a theme that you see throughout this video. First up with Last House on Needless Street. This was I think this is her most popular book. This is the book that really launched her into the public eye with her, I don't know if it was her debut or not, but I do know that it is her most beloved book, and I definitely enjoyed it. I would say I didn't enjoy it as much as I enjoyed Looking Glass Down because, in my opinion, Looking Glass Down, with it being her most recent novel, I think it's also her most polished work, her most focused work. I just think Looking Glass Sound is, I mean, like, it was very interesting to read Last House on Needless Street after Looking Glass Sound because you can really see the building blocks in this book and then, you know, what it ultimately ends up as with Looking Glass Down. They're not the same story by any means, but you do get all of the Catriona Ward things that she likes to do with formatting, with language, with character, voice development, things like that. All of the things that are in here are then progressed, and I think better ultimately in Looking Glass Down. So while I still enjoyed this a lot. Like, there was, you know, still a lot of things that my brain was just like working overtime to figure out what was going on, and there was, you know, still a lot of twists and just a lot of interesting conversations. That's the thing that I love about Catriona Ward, is that she doesn't just do horror, she doesn't just do thriller, she doesn't just do genre fiction. She really tries to have some real conversations through her work. And I think that it's hard because like I said, I just enjoyed Looking Glass Sound more. I enjoyed the conversations that were being had there, but I think there's a really important conversation being had in this book too. And it's hard to talk about this book without any type of spoiler because it's just such an intricately woven story that saying anything is, there is a big risk of spoiling things. So, I definitely enjoyed this. I think I would give it like a 3.5, 3.75, somewhere in there. It's not my favorite Catriona Ward, but I do think it was, I mean, it was entertaining. It was endlessly fascinating. It's just, I love Looking Glass Sound, so that is going to be a high bar to clear, but still fabulous, still fabulous. And then the next three books that I read were all memoirs for my Memoir May video. So I will not talk really at length about any of these books because I have a whole reading vlog dedicated to them. But what I will say is The Witching Year by Dana Helmuth. I gave this 5 stars. I really, really loved it, but I don't know that everyone's gonna have that reaction. I just thought it was a really well done book that worked for me. Crying in H Mart by Michelle Zauner. This is a heartbreaking, harrowing memoir about a woman who is going through her mother's death with cancer, unfortunately, and it's just heartbreaking. I'm sure most people know what this book is. It was too sad for me. I did struggle with this one. And then we have The Night Parade by Jamie Nakamura Lin. This is a creative memoir. It's part memoir, part exploration of Japanese folklore, and it's very interesting because she combines this element of Japanese folklore with the her like personal story elements. It's a really creative way of telling a memoir story. I loved this. I really, really loved this. It is kind of like very big brained and like academic in the beginning, especially. It feels very untethered. It feels kind of dreamlike. It's very it's weird to follow at first, and you just feel on very uneven footing. But if you stick it out, I feel like things become a lot clearer, and I really loved this. This is definitely going in the category of memoir that I really love. It's very similar to, well, not similar, but it's in that same very creative vein as In the Dream House by Carmen Maria Machado. So if that is something that you like, you should definitely consider picking up The Night Parade. Moving right along, the next book that I read, that is Fish Swimming in Dappled Sunlight by Riku Anda. This is a Japanese thriller, suspense, mystery. I don't know what to classify this book as, and honestly, I don't even know what to say about this book. It's the cover and the title give this very like serene vibe that the book is not at all. This book is an absolute roller coaster. It is wild from start to finish, and it gets crazy. It goes into a territory that I don't think most people are going to like. And because of that, I really have a hard time recommending it very widely, because it's crazy. It's absolutely insane. And honestly, it's a little bit silly. So if you like a thriller that just has, you're in it for the twists, I think definitely check out this genre of Japanese thriller, because I don't know if this one is really like the perfect one, but it is an example of how this type of Japanese thriller really does twist, because they are, you are never going to see this book coming, I'll say that. I would recommend Confessions over this one, because Confessions is still wild, but doesn't have a very specific element that Swimming in Dappled Sunlight has, which is going to make people, I think, very upset. It's so hard to talk about this book. I don't even know what to say, because I can't say anything that doesn't spoil it. But okay, just know, if you do go into this book, just be prepared for some very uncomfortable situations. Okay, next up we have Happiness Falls by Angie Kim. This is a mystery. I was gonna say literary. I don't know. I think some people might classify this as literary. Another one that I just don't really know what I feel about it, because this is a mystery that follows a family trying to discover what happened to their father after it appears that he's missing. It seems that something has happened while he was out with his son, and the son is non-verbal, he's unable to communicate due to a disorder that he has. And it's very fascinating in that it has this very unique look at a person with disabilities, with a non-communicative disability, and that it's fascinating for that. It's really a very interesting look and a unique look into this disorder, that it really does affect real people. It just provides a perspective that is just much needed in this space. However, a couple issues with this. I would give this maybe like a 3. I don't know. To be honest, I just was waiting. I was dying for this to be over because it is really, really long. Like, it feels long. It is dense. I mean, the page count is not horrible. It's 368. So it's under 400 pages, but it is wordy. It is overly, I don't know, like the language in here, the writing style, it was difficult for me. Also because our protagonist, the person that we hear the entire story from, is pretty young. I mean, a lot of people have said this is almost leaning on YA, and that's because our protagonist is 20 years old, but she does read quite young, and I don't like YA, so that is already going to be a struggle for me. On top of that, you have just a very lengthy, like, word heavy, I don't even know how else to say it, it's just very wordy. The mystery is quite tedious, and I don't think it focuses its time in the right places all the time. I wanted this to grip me more than it did, and for that I don't know. I know some people have really loved this, so if the concept does interest you, I would say give it a try. But for me, I just don't know that it was all worth all that, I guess. I don't know. This one did not really land for me, but I am glad that I finally got around to it. And then I went on vacation and was so happy that I got quite a bit of reading done. First up, I finished it. I finished A Gentleman in Moscow by Amor Tolls. And oh my gosh, I started this in April, got about halfway through it, had to put it down just because this book is beautiful. It's amazing. It is fabulous. But it is very dense with its language. It's a very flowery, over the top, very lush writing style. Each sentence you really have to pick apart because there's so much going on in it. It's fantastic writing, but it is very, it requires a lot of energy from you. And so I did like put it down, and then I came back to it because I just found that the perfect place for me to read this was on a plane, when I really had no other options. Like, I could just sit there and focus, and I had no distractions, and that was really what I needed to read this book. So I brought this on vacation with me and did end up finishing it, and oh wow, this book, it really is a heartwarming story. It's beautiful. It's fantastically told. It has a very episodic quality to it. It feels like you're watching your favorite comfort TV show. This follows a man throughout his life after he is placed on house arrest in this glamorous, over-the-top, beautiful hotel in Moscow. Our character is a very charismatic protagonist. He's witty, he's funny, he's charming, he's just very much a people person, a people pleaser. And he then meets all of the people that are staying in the hotel, that live in the hotel as well, and all of its characters. So this book really does feel like sitting down for a nice long dinner with your close friends, having a chat, having a conversation. It discusses life and love and happiness and joy and sorrow at times, but it's just like a warm cup of tea or like a hug from a loved one. That's really what this book feels like. It's beautiful. It's really, really beautiful. I loved it so much, and I'm so happy that I finally read it, and now I get to watch the TV show, which I'm very excited about doing as well. So it's a long one. It does take a while to get through, but I found it so amazing. And then to kind of balance out the very lengthy book that I read with Gentleman in Moscow, I read a short and sweet book that is Soldier Sailor by Claire Kilroy. This book, wow. It's short, but man, it packs a punch. This is a very unflinching look at the early days of motherhood and how really there's just this kind of prevailing sexism when it comes to childcare and parenthood. And this follows a young mother who is kind of in the throes of the most difficult days of parenting a very young child, who feels very alone because she just does not get the support, the help that she needs from her husband specifically, and she just feels like she is on an island trying to keep this child alive. And it's really, really powerful. I loved this book. The writing it's much more snappy than, something like Gentleman in Moscow, but it is very still a high quality of writing. And the character voice is just, you get this this mix of her being just so exhausted, so tired, so at the end of her rope because of the work that it requires to be a mother. But at the same time, you feel this complete and total love that she has for her child. And to be able to balance that just so perfectly is honestly you read something like this and you're like, wow, that is a writer. The fact that she's able to do this to such a perfect degree, it blew me away. I loved this. I loved this perspective of motherhood. I love this honest and raw and real look at what women go through all the time. And it's really just fantastic. And lastly, I didn't quite finish it, so this is going to technically be on my June TBR, but that is A Botanical Daughter by Noah Medlock. I don't know, I can't really say that I read this in May because technically I think I probably started it in June. So this is just basically the start of my June TBR. But A Botanical Daughter by Noah Medlock. This is a Victorian Frankenstein style story. It follows two gay men who live in a greenhouse, and one of them is a botanist, and he attempts to create life out of basically a sentient plant. And it's really, it's an interesting kind of mix of it feels kind of like cozy horror, but it's not even really horror. It's very, very, very light on the horror elements, but they are present, but they are just really, really minimalized. And the result is this kind of it's like I said, it's cozy. It's very this is a found family kind of story. They live in this lush, beautiful greenhouse, and the vibes are just so amazing. I love the setting of this novel. It just, it's delicious to read. The writing is, pun intended, quite flowery. It is over the top. It is kind of mimicking the Victorian style of writing, although it doesn't go all the way. So I think that it does bring in this element of accessibility into this Victorian writing style, which I think was really well done. So Noah Medlock, well done for that. I've been really enjoying it. I'm about halfway through, so I can't say entirely what I feel about it, but I've really enjoyed it up until this point. So I think that it will end up getting a pretty high rating from me. This is fabulous for the start of summer. Perfect setting and time. And then I will mention just one DNF that I had. That is The Other Valley by Scott Alexander Howard. This is a speculative sci-fi story, and it's kind of lit fic, but not really. So I did attempt to read this. I got 50 pages into it, and I don't know, I'm not saying that I'm forever DNFing it, because it is quite short, and I would just like to, with it being a debut novel, I would like to give it more of a chance, because the concept in here is really interesting. Basically, there's this valley that sits in between two other valleys that are identical to it, and one is 20 years in the future and the other is 20 years in the past. So it's a very high concept, big premise story, which is something that I think is some kind of severely lacking right now. We don't get enough of these high concept premises, in my opinion. But the main problem that I have with this is that our protagonist is in high school, and this book is not classified as YA, but it definitely feels YA because of that. This is also, there's a romance at the center of this that feels very YA to me. And the book says it's kind of, you could compare it to Kazuo Ishiguro, and I do understand how in Never Let Me Go they are technically children in that book, but it's not written from the child's perspective. It's written from the perspective of a grown woman who's reflecting on that time as a child, and because of that, there's just a very distinct tone about it. It doesn't read like YA. This definitely reads like YA, and because of that, I don't like YA, so I did have to put it down, but I don't know, I might come back to this in the future just because I am still a little bit curious about this. Okay, so those are all the books that I read in May. I had a good time. I think I had a good reading month. I had probably my best reading month year to date, so I'm really, really happy with that, and that just makes me more excited to get into June and summer in general. So the reason that I couldn't decide how I wanted to do this video was because, to be honest, for June I don't have a ton of really solidified plans, but I do have 2 that are absolutely on the board. And then, like I said, A Botanical Daughter is technically for June already, so this is already top of my TBR because I'm going to finish this. I'm halfway through it. And then I do have 2 more that I know I'm going to be reading in June. First up, very excited about this one. Me and Caitlin Bandy from Bandy's Books have started a new book club called the BACKLIST Book Club. And the intention behind this book club is to read some of the books that have been sitting on our TBR shelves for over 5 years. They were 5 years in publication. We've been just sitting on them and we haven't got around to them. And we have decided that the first book we will be reading for this book club is My Year of Rest and Relaxation by Otesha Moshfegh. And this one is going to be really interesting. I have never read an Otesha Moshfegh. I don't know really a lot about this author as far as her writing style goes. I do know that she writes some very weird and out there things, and I know that people have very mixed reviews to this one in particular. This follows a woman who just decides that she is going to take a year and basically sleep the entire year, I think is essentially what the premise is. I have heard that this is people's favorite book, and I've heard that this book just is very off-putting. So I don't know where I'm going to land, but I'm very curious in reading this, and also I think we're gonna have a great discussion. So if you are interested in reading this with us or chatting about it, go ahead and follow both myself and Bandy's Books, and we will very soon have a date for that live show. Next up is a book that I have been excited about since I heard that it was coming out, so very highly anticipated release, one of my most highly anticipated releases of 2024. That is The Last Murder at the End of the World by Stuart Turton. This is, of course, from the author who wrote The 7.5 Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle, which I read and really enjoyed, and then Devil in the Dark Water, which I have not read, but he is really known for doing, again, these really high concept, crazy premises, and I thought that he executed it really well in the one that I read from him. So this is a very highly anticipated release, and I have been trying to avoid any spoilers, any thoughts. I'm getting this in my Aardvark book box for June, so I will be getting it in, I don't know, about a week. So I think that will be coming very quickly, and the second that I get my hands on it, I will be reading it. So those are the only books that I know for sure I'm going to be reading in June. I don't have a lot of plans otherwise, and I think that's fine because it is time to flip my board from spring to summer. And I think once I start making my summer board, I will have a much clearer picture of what I want to read in June. Okay, so if you are new here, how this works is I basically just put my top priorities up here, and then I kind of go down the list of what I really would like to read in that season. I do 3 months at a time. So for summer, it will be June, July, and August. But first, we have to talk about what I accomplished on my spring reads board. Let's see how I did. First up, The Wind in the Willows by Kenneth Grahame. Well, so I did try to read this. This is a children's story about woodland creatures living in the woods, and I did try to read this, and I could not get through it. I was so bored. It was beautifully written and it was beautifully done, but it was so dull. I could not get through it. And the only audiobook option that I had for it, it was not done well. So I did try this. I tried it multiple times. I really wanted to push through it because it's not even that long, but I could not do it. So that was going to be my classic for the season. I'm doing 1 classic per quarter, and technically I failed, but you know what? I did try. So that's better than not picking it up at all. Next, Burnham Wood by Eleanor Canton. Okay, well, Catton, not Canton. I always say Canton with an N, but it's not. It's Catton. Catton. So I actually have this book out from the library right now, and I do still want to read it. But I hadn't yet. I think I did open the book and I got like 10 pages into it, and that's as far as I got. So I can't really count it as trying, but I did open the book. So that's something. But no, did not read it. A Gentleman in Moscow. Yes, we have read that. Yay. Okay, great. Wellness by Nathan Hill. Well, I did start this, actually. I did pick it up. I got about 50 pages into it, and a big reason why I didn't end up getting through it was because I was doing Escape the Readathon in May, and because of the style of that readathon, it would not behoove me to read long books, and Wellness is, I think like 800 pages. So, I started it, and then I was like, you know what? Now is not the time for this because I'm doing this readathon, this team-based competitive readathon, and my team needs me. So I did not read that, but I did start it, and yeah, you're gonna see it on this board in summer, I would say. Oh, Piglet, this one. Piglet by Lottie Hazel. Yes, I read it, I enjoyed it, I have a full review of it if you're interested. Airplane mode. I have that one right here. Airplane Mode by Shanaz Habib. This is a nonfiction, an irreverent history of travel. So I did start it. I did pick it up. I read the first, I think like 2 chapters. I'm definitely going to continue on with it, probably in the summer, but it's a dense nonfiction, very academic. It's a nice writing style. I was enjoying what I was reading, but it was dense and I did not get through it. So sad, but I did start it. Interesting facts about space. I read about half of this and I ended up DNFing it, not even because I didn't like it, just because it was fine, but I was bored with it. And that's all. I just DNF'd it. The Night Parade. Yes, we talked about that one. Yes, I read it. Last House on Needless Street. Talked about it. Yes, I read it. And House of Last Resort. Oh, this was one of the first books that I read in, I don't remember what month it was. March? April? I don't know. House of Last Resort. It's another horror book. And yes, I read it. So actually, I mean, like, I really did a good job on this spring board. I think this is maybe the most successful board I've ever had because though I didn't finish all of them, I at least started all of them. And that is really, really impressive. So I at least opened every single book on here. So I'm happy about that. And now we get to clear the board to make room for summer. And I am so excited that it is summer. Summer is just, it hit June 1st and just like, I just came alive. I absolutely adore summer. Okay, there we go. Summer Reads 2024. Whew, I've already been talking for so long and it's gonna take me forever to edit this video. This one is a long one, sorry. Okay, Summer 2024. So here's the thing. I have this massive pile of books that I pulled off my TBR shelf. All of these are contenders for things that I could read in summer, and we'll see if they make it on the board or not. The other thing that I always forget to do is my TBR teacup. So let's pull one for June right now and see if there's anything in this pile that already accomplishes what I pull. So this is for June only. I'm only gonna pull them 1 month at a time in case I don't actually get through it. So far, I've completed every single one of my prompts that I've pulled. So we've been doing really well. Okay, this one is a book with a 1-word title. Okay, a book with a 1-word title. Let's see if there's anything in my current, the stack that I pulled from my TBR shelf that has 1-word titles. Okay, yeah, there's definitely a few. Let's talk about them. Okay, we have 3 books here with a 1-word title. The first being Mary. Well, is this a 1-word title? It's called Mary, An Awakening of Terror by Nat Cassidy. I think the An Awakening of Terror would be technically a subtitle. So, I don't know. I think it's just gonna be called Mary and that'll count. Nat Cassidy. So this book is I think it's a possession story, and I've heard a lot of great things. I think a lot of people, a lot of the horror community really does enjoy this book. I was very, very excited for it, but then I read his other book, Nestlings, and I did not enjoy that one at all, really. Well, that's not fair, but I didn't enjoy it as much as I wanted to. So because of that, I am a little bit concerned about this one. But it's on there. The reason I pulled it off was because a lot of these books, or some of these books, I pulled off for Summerween, which is a readathon hosted every summer by Gabby Reads. And this year it's taking place between July 5th and July 11th. So the horror books I pulled off here are for Summerween. And this one I was considering reading for Summerween, although if I just pull it for June, then that's not gonna happen. But that is an option. Next up, we have Trust by Hernan Diaz. This is a literary fiction book that has been on my TBR for so long. So long that it's like one of those ones that just, it eats away at me whenever I look at it on my TBR shelf. So maybe I should get to this one. And then finally, we have Sundial by Catriona Ward. This is a horror that takes place in the desert, which I think is very summer focused, which I really enjoy. Now, again, this is one that I was thinking about for Summerween, and if I read it in June, I can't read it for Summerween, so that's going to be a problem. And also, I did pull this. It was already on my TBR, but the thing is that I just read a Catriona Ward with Last House on Needless Street, so I don't know, maybe that's a bit too soon. I do still have this one and one more Catriona Ward that I'm trying to read by the end of the year, so it would not be bad for me to get through this, but should I save it for Summerween and just give me a little bit more space between Last House and on Needless Street and this one? I don't know. I think of these three, I think I kind of want to go with Trust, and I want to put it on the board. It is a little nerve-wracking that it is so long, but I think this could be a 5-star prediction for me. And for that, I feel like it deserves a spot on the board. So we're gonna go ahead and go with Trust. And then for Summerween, I will think about one of these two books. All right, Trust officially going on the June TBR. And our first on the board. Okay. So, since we are talking about Summerween, let's just chat about what my options are. I already told you about two of them with Sundial and Mary, and then the next one that I would really like to get to, I think I'm going to put this on the board for sure. That is When the Reckoning Comes by LaTanya McQueen. This is a Southern Gothic horror that focuses a lot on a kind of racial inequality, and that is like where this horror is stemming from. I don't know a ton about it, but I do know that pretty much everyone who has read this has adored it. And also, very cool, but LaTanya McQueen used to work at my school that I went to, my college, and she was a professor there. So I have met her, I've spoken to her several times. I never took a class with her though, and I deeply regret that, but by the time she got there, I was like in my senior year, and I was done with all the classes in that field that I needed to. So very sad that I never got to actually take a class with her, but she did still teach at my school, and I have met her. So I've been dying to read this book, and it's going to be perfect for Summerween. It's definitely going on the board. And also, this is one of my 24 and 2024 books. So that, I mean, we have to do that. And then the last one that I was kind of thinking about for Summerween, but this wouldn't be for Summerween, but just in the summer, I was thinking about House of Leaves by Mark Z. Danielewski. How do you pronounce his name? Danielewski. Okay, well, House of Leaves, obviously, the iconic, the classic, the horror books to end all horror books, House of Leaves. Obviously, it is 1 million pages, and I've been trying to think about, I really want to read this book in 2024, and I just haven't really thought about how to accomplish it. And so I was thinking maybe I would start it in summer, and maybe by the time I get to like September, October, I could be done with it. I don't know even how to break it up. I don't even know like where to start. I mean, like, it's almost 700 pages, and I don't even know what to make of it. So I'm very intimidated by this. I'm scared in more ways than one. So what do I do about that? I think I'm gonna put it on the board and just try to start it, and we'll just see what happens. Thinking about this, I'm looking at the books I have pulled and I'm just like, oh my gosh, yeah, I would love to put all of them on the board. One of them that I really should actually get to in June, that is Incidents Around the House by Josh Malerman. This is an art copy that I have and it comes out on June 25th. So because of that, I feel like I should really prioritize it for June. I'm not gonna put it on the board, but I think I do need to just keep this in the back of my mind and make sure I get to it. And honestly, like, it doesn't look like it's going to take a long time. There's a lot of white space on the pages. This is a horror novel told from the perspective of a child in a haunted house, which sounds like so much fun. I am nervous about this one because Josh Malerman, I've never read him before, and I'm nervous, but I think I should give it a try. So this is on my June TBR. And then I still have wellness. That I would really, really like to get to, and I was enjoying what I read of the first 50 pages, and I know it gets better, a lot better, but I'm kind of concerned because if I have trust, especially if I have it in June, I just don't know how I'm going to get to this in the same month. I think they're going to be too similar tone-wise, maybe. I don't know, just long, lit, thick. They seem too close together to me. So I don't know how I'm going to get to this, but I have to keep it on the board because I really, really, really want to read it. I also went ahead and put on Last Murder at the End of the World. That's Stuart Turton book. That is absolutely a summer read. Okay, we're getting down to the wire. The next little section of books are just books that I pulled off that they called to me. Thursday Murder Club. I meant to read this in May, and I didn't. This is one of those books that I just, for the life of me, just cannot get into, and I think I need to do it on an audiobook. I would love to get this off my shelf, though. Another arc, that is Toward Eternity by Anton Hur. This is a sci-fi novel that comes out in July 2024, so I would love to get to it and to be able to review it in time. You know what? It's very short, so I'm just gonna go ahead and put it on the board. And then I have The Vaster Wilds by Lauren Groff. This is going to be an interesting one because I've read several Lauren Groff at this point, and I honestly have not liked any of them, but The Vaster Wilds really called to me. It is a shorter book. It's a survival story, two things I'm always about. So because of that, I'm interested in trying it. And this was a book that I purchased during the holiday season of 2023. So it would be really, really nice to get this off my shelf. Same thing with Trust. That's why I would really like to get to it, because I purchased it recently, and you know, it feels so good when you read the books that you buy. Then I have What Happened to Ruthie Ramirez by Claire Jimenez. This is a backlog aardvark book. I don't know what year this is from. Pretty recently though, like 2021, 22. This is about a girl who goes missing, and then her family sees her on like a television show or something. Sounds really interesting, sounds really fun, and it's very, very short. So this could be great for like a 24-hour readathon, maybe? And finally, the last book that I have, that is Lovers and Liars by Amanda Ear Ward. This is a very recent Aardvark Book Club pick. So I'm interested in this book because I'm kind of wanting to do a wedding-themed reading vlog, because at the end of summer, I am getting married, and I think it would be really fun to read a bunch of wedding books beforehand. And this one is set in like an English manor house wedding, which sounds so delightful and so lovely. And this is about a family of sisters and their kind of relationship as one of them is getting married. Sounds really, really lovely. I am nervous about doing too many wedding books all in a row, because I think I might have to do them in like completely different genres. Otherwise it just might get too similar. So we'll see what happens, but that is on my list. I also really just, this cover calls to me, really like it. So do any of these deserve to be on the board? I just don't know. I'm struggling. I'm really struggling with the board this season, because I don't know if anything is like, oh, I need to read that. I'm gonna put both Sundial and Mary on the board. Is that crazy for me to do? I don't know, but I'm doing it. Okay, there we go. I have space for two more books. What deserves to be on the board? I think the last two spaces are going to go to Toward Eternity and What Happened to Ruthie Ramirez. Yeah, I feel happy with that. All right, there we go. And that is what we have for my summer TBR board. Every single time I do this board, I never get through all of them. Although in the spring one I got really, really close, probably one of the closest I've ever come. So that gives me a lot of energy going into summer. And these I think are very doable because many of them are short, although I do have 2 really long ones. So we'll see how that, no, 3, my God. Yeah, we'll see how it goes. I'm so looking forward to reading all of these. Thank you so much for joining me today. We covered a lot of ground. All of the books I read in May, plus a June and summer TBR. That is a lot of books. Let me know down in the comments below if you have read any of the books that I've talked about. What did you think of them? I would love to know what's on your summer TBR. Thanks so much for being here. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, week, month, and year. And I will see you next time. Thanks so much. Bye.